One day, a boy was sitting in his classroom in school. He was extremely bored and was waiting for the school bell to ring. When he looked out the window, something caught his eye. There was a photograph lying on the grass outside. When school was over, he ran outside and picked up the photograph before anyone else had the chance to see it. Turning it over in his hands, he realized it was a picture of an incredibly beautiful girl. She was wearing a white top, black skirt, black ties, and black shoes. And for some reason, she was holding up 2 fingers. The girl was so pretty that he wanted to meet her. He showed the photograph to everyone in school and asked if anybody knew her. Fortunately, nobody recognized her. That night, when he went to bed, he placed the photo on his bedside table and went to sleep. Around midnight, he woke up. There was something tapping on his window. Then he heard what sounded like someone giggling. More than a little frightened, he worked up the courage to investigate it. He jumped out of bed, went over to the window and opened it. There was nothing there. The next day, he showed the photo to his friends and neighbors and asked if they knew this mysterious girl. Everybody he asked said that they had never seen the girl before. That night, as he was laying in bed, he heard the tapping sound again. He looked out the window and could just make out a figure standing on the other side of the street. He couldn't be sure, but it looked like the mysterious girl in the photograph. Clutching the picture tightly, he threw on his clothes and raced downstairs and out the front door. As he crossed the road, he forgot to look both ways and was suddenly hit by a car. The driver got out of the car and ran over to help the boy, but it was no use. The boy had been killed on the impact. The driver noticed something clutched in the boy's hands. It was a photograph. Turning it over in his hands, the driver realized it was a picture of an incredibly beautiful girl. She was wearing a white top, black skirt, black ties, and black shoes. And for some reason, she was holding up 3 fingers. There was a very famous author named David, who had written quite a few best-selling horror novels. All of the literary critics praised his talent for plot twists and surprise endings. He received a large amount of fan mail every day, and some budding authors even sent him manuscripts in hopes that he would help them get their work published. While David took pleasure in responding to letters from his fans, he took even more pleasure in stealing the ideas of amateur writers. If he came across a manuscript with a great idea for a scary story, he would use it in one of his own books and deny the author the credit. Then, in order to hide his theft, he pulled some strings with his friends in the publishing industry to make sure that the original author never got anything published in the future. One day, David received a new manuscript in the mail. It was bound in a beautiful hardcover book. He read the first chapter and felt that he knew how the story would end. As he continued reading, he became more and more certain that he could guess the twist ending. It was growing late, but he wanted to finish reading the manuscript to see whether or not he was right. When David came to the final chapter, he realized that the last few pages of the book were stuck together. Anxious to read further, he pulled the pages apart. He felt increasingly tired but still kept reading. Finally, he came to the end of the book. It was exactly the twist ending he had anticipated. The husband had hanged himself just as his wife was committing suicide in the next room. David made a mental note to steal the idea and use it in his next story. Just then, he noticed that after the words "the end," there was a little handwritten comment from the author. It read, "I already know that you are planning to steal the ideas on this story. I know because you did the exact same thing to me the last time I sent you my manuscript. You published it under your own name and didn't give me any credit. You ripped me off and blacklisted me in the industry. Nobody will accept my novels anymore, and I will never again be able to publish anything I write. You have ruined my life, and now I am going to have my revenge." You had to pull apart the back pages in order to read this, didn't you? Well, those pages contain a poison, arsenic to be precise. Are you feeling tired? That is normal. It's one of the symptoms of arsenic poisoning. Soon, your heartbeat will get slower and slower until it eventually stops permanently. Don't bother trying to call an ambulance. You will be dead before they arrive. You have already been exposed for too long. Goodbye, David. Some twist endings can be very hard to predict. There was a 15-year-old girl named Chloe who created an account on Instagram. She always took pictures of herself at school and at home and posted them online. Chloe spent a lot of time trying to get as many followers as possible on her profile. She would browse through other users' accounts and leave a comment on their photos saying, "Please follow me. I follow back." One day, when she was looking for new followers, she came across a strange profile. It was a man who took pictures of dismembered dolls. He never showed his face in any of the photos. As usual, Chloe left a comment on his photos. "Please follow me. I follow back." An hour later, the man followed her account. He left a comment on her latest photo saying, "I'm following you." Whenever she posted a new photo, he would always leave the same comment, "I am following you." She never understood it, but she didn't care. Chloe was obsessed with gathering as many followers as possible and getting as many likes as she could on her pictures. One night, when her parents had gone to the supermarket, Chloe got a picture sent to her Instagram account. When she opened the photo, she realized that it was a picture of her sitting on her bed. All of a sudden, she was paralyzed by fear, and she began to feel a terrible chill take over her body. She heard footsteps approaching, and a gravely voice behind her said, "I'm following you." One evening, a young woman named Betty was home alone when she heard a knock at the front door. She opened it and found a young man standing there on the doorstep. He told her that his car had broken down and asked if he could come in and make a call because his cell phone battery had run out. Betty was a friendly young woman and she agreed to help him. After he made his call, she offered him a drink. They sat down in the living room and began to discuss anything and everything. Their conversation continued long into the night. As it was getting late, Betty yawned and told the young man that it was probably time for him to go home. However, He ignored her and continued to talk about his passion for movies. He listed all the movies he had seen recently and asked her opinion about them. He continued to talk and brought up the subject of video nasties. Betty didn't know what the term meant. He explained that a video nasty was a film in which a person was actually murdered. No special effects, no camera tricks. Everything was real. Betty began to get a little creeped out and explained that she had been terrified when she watched one particular movie. It was the morbid story of a young woman who was trapped by 3 psychopaths who left the camera running as they killed her and chopped her up. The man began to talk more and more about video nasties, and the longer he spoke, the more uneasy she became. While he was talking, Betty's attention was suddenly drawn by a peculiar red glow under the jacket of her guest. Her face grew pale when she realized it was the unmistakable red light of a camera that was recording. 20 years ago, there was a young girl who was a talented ballet dancer. Her mother was very proud of her and had ambitions that someday her daughter would become a famous ballerina. However, the girl's hopes of a bright future were dashed when she was diagnosed with terminal illness. The doctors told her she had less than a year to live. As months went by, her mother tried to make her as comfortable as possible, but the girl's condition worsened. Soon, she was unable to walk or even stand and had to spend most of her time laying in bed. One night, the mother was downstairs watching television when she heard bumping noises coming from her daughter's room. She raced up the stairs, opened the bedroom door, and was shocked to see that her sickly daughter was out of her bed and moving around. Not only that, her daughter was jumping and dancing around the room, just like she had when she was healthy. The mother watched in delight as the young girl performed leaps and pirouettes. She grabbed the camera and started taking photos of her beloved ballet girl. Marveling at her daughter's miraculous recovery, the mother snapped picture after picture until the camera was out of film. In the end, the girl finished in an arabesque position. The mother gave her a round of applause, but when she looked at her daughter's face, she suddenly stopped clapping. The girl's eyes were rolled back in her head and her face was deathly pale. Suddenly, she keeled over and collapsed in a heap on the bedroom floor. The ballet girl was rushed to hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival. The doctors said that the ballet dancing had been too much for her weak heart to withstand. She had literally danced herself to death. The mother was inconsolable. After the funeral, the mother took the pictures to be revealed. When she got them back, she flipped through the photos, remembering that last happy moment when her daughter had danced so beautifully. Suddenly, her hands started shaking and a scream died in her throat. The photographs fell to the floor and she collapsed. The pictures revealed that the entire time her daughter was performing the ballet moves, there was a ghostly green hand clutching her by the head and pulling her back and forth, forcing her to dance.